Well, we are so grateful for you being with us for another virtual Sunday school. Pastor Damon Cunley, and I'm grateful to be at this church that is dear to Pastor Orr's heart, the people of New Hope here in South Haven, Dr. Sherman Helton, and just how they played a part in this book that we're walking through, Ordinary Lessons. If you hadn't gotten the book already, you got to get it. It's on Amazon now. You can get it through our bookstore. Wherever you got to do to get it, you need to get it. 7 ordinary lessons to help you live an extraordinary life that our pastor was just inspired by God to write for us and for people all around the world. Today, the previous week, we looked at chapter 1. We've done chapter 2. We kind of going through this book. This week, we're going to be looking at chapter 4, ordinary lesson number 4, keep the peace. Keep the peace. When we work together in unity, nothing is impossible for us to achieve, to keep the peace. Thanks so much for being here. You can go ahead and like and share. We would love to get 1,000 shares. Let me do that to honor our pastor. For you to be that virtual missionary, that digital disciple, to make that happen. We live in a world where, look, unity and peace is so needed. You can turn on the news at any given point and see the need for peace, the need for us to be unified, unity in the church, unity in our community with the different things that are happening. Look, unity and peace is very important. And this was something that God wanted his people to be, was keeping the peace, being unified. You know, Jesus' prayer to the Lord, he wanted his disciples, he wanted them to be one, just as they were one, which would signify the need of the whole point of peace and unity. We see it even as we fast forward to the New Testament. We look at Romans chapter 5. Romans chapter 5 would tell us, since we've been justified by faith, we now have peace with God. So prior to us being justified by faith, there was no peace. We lived in a state of disarray. We lived in a place where there was disunity. We walked in darkness. Ephesians chapter 2:4 talks about how we were doing anything to run away from the goodness and the glorious nature of God. But after we're justified by faith, after we've been legally declared righteous by God, we now have peace through our Lord Jesus Christ, through the blood that was shed on the cross in our place and for our sin, the unity, the peace, because his blood has covered us, his blood has cleansed us. We now have peace. Peace is something I think that all of us want to have. You purchase your home or your apartment or your condo, wherever you live, you get it. And if there's not peace, if there's no peace in the world around us, one of the places you expect to get peace and to be able to have a peace of mind is in your home, right? The ambiance of your house, however you have it set up, or your apartment, your condo, wherever you live, you set it up so that there could be a sense of peace and tranquility. Some of you may have a little water device that gives you that sound of the waters, like you see the tidal waves, or if you're at the beach, or like whatever it is that you get peace. You do that because it is so needed for our souls, is to have peace. Our minds, our bodies, our soul is not meant to be in a constant state of war and raging, but yet, due to sin, we unfortunately live in a place where there's always just constant struggle, constant strife, and bickering. And this chapter is really going to help us to see why peace is so important, Again, Pastor Orr loves these Old Testament stories, and we're going to see in Numbers 16, he tells the story of Korah's rebellion, the rebellion as they are confronting Moses in terms of what he's doing, the wife that he has chosen to have. And we see what happens when God, what he does to the people as they rebelled against his chosen vessel. We see what happened. But the heart of rebellion, the heart of just disunity, and the reason why we don't have peace, he gives us some P's that I think really speak to the reality of what causes disruption in our relationships, in our lives, in our workplaces, whatever. These P's cause them. One is power struggles. We wonder who is in charge. We wonder who is in charge. Power struggles. We see this happening in corporate America. We see it happen in our favorite sports teams. Sadly, we see it happen in the church as well. Think about the power struggles. I don't know if you are a Michael Jordan fan, LeBron fan, or Kobe fan, whatever it is, but think about it. If you're a Laker fan and during that dynasty that was being built with Shaq and Kobe, just think about what would have happened if the power struggle wouldn't have taken place. I mean, even if you look at in our own neck of the woods, in our backyard, if the Orlando Magic could have kept Penny Hardaway and Shaq together, what could have become if the power struggles would not have taken place? What could they have been like? Power struggles, knowing who's in charge, is one of the leading causes why we don't have the unity and the peace that we need, is because people are always fighting to have to be the leader, to have to be on top, even in sometimes when they have not been fit to be a leader or fit, to be that person in charge. But power struggles. He talks about position. We wonder who holds the title. And he says it's amazing. It's amazing how a title or position can go to someone's head. We see this happen a lot. I still haven't found out yet as Baptists if we can watch movies or not. But one of my favorite movies is Coming to America. You remember Coming to America? It's a classic. And one of the scenes in there, you got one of the characters who has been working his way up at McDowell's, which was the restaurant, the fast food restaurant chain that Lisa's father owned and ran. And one of the scenes is that you see the guy who has started off mopping the floors and now he's like, I'm washing the lettuce today, and next week I'll be on the grill, or next week I'll be doing the fry. Like he was basically talking about these successive steps of how he was moving up. His title had changed, and it did something to him. If you watch the movie, like he carried himself in a different way, as he was saying that he was washing the lettuce and now he's doing the fries and all those things. It went to his head. And that's what a lot of times people in these titles, it gets to people's heads. And unfortunately, it destroys organization. It destroys the unity. It destroys the peace that we're trying to have, whether it's at work or even in our homes, right? So we got power struggles. We have position. Then he says possessions. We become envious and jealous of other people's belongings. This happens so much in our world, unfortunately. Even though in the Old Testament we see it in the commandments not to covet. Thou shalt not covet. This ideal of covetousness is the desire of wanting other people's things, or seeing someone have something, whether it's a car, whether it's a home, whether it's clothing, apparel, whatever it is, that we begin to covet their things and say, you know what? Instead of me working to get what I want what they have. And the Bible was clear, and it took lots of time in Leviticus, just walking through, you should not have your neighbors this and that and all those things. Why? Is because the heart of covetousness is that whole idol of, I'm not complete, I don't have success unless I have this that somebody else has. I'm not completed until I have this thing that somebody else has. And look, this plagues our society. A lot of the crime that we see in our streets is one of covetousness, where I gotta have what somebody else has. The carjackings that take place, I gotta have this car that somebody else has worked for, when they can in themselves work hard and do the things that these other individuals who are trying to be productive are doing to attain these things. They say, I'm going to lie in wait and I'm going to take it because this is what I want. This is something that really disrupts our peace and disrupts our unity, the jealousy of other people, their success. And then he says personality. So another P, personality. Sometimes we just don't like somebody, and this can keep a community at odds. We see this happen in our communities. We see this happen in our churches. Unfortunately, people are territorial. They don't like people. their personality, whether they're introvert or extrovert, it causes our peace to be disrupted. And all these things, there are many more, right, that we could go through, some more peace, some more terms that can talk about ways that our peace can be destroyed. But at the center of this, at the center of all of this, and I think this is what we have to do the work of checking our own hearts, is pride. Pride is at the center of this. And if Pastor Orr was here preaching, he would say, if you look at the word pride, I is right in the middle of it. I is what is keeping myself from helping us to move to the next level is pride. Pride. The pride that we have in our hearts, not the pride of just being excited for what God has gifted you with to do, but it's that pride that says, it's all about me. It's all about my agenda. It's all about what I want. It's all about me getting all of the attention. And that is what is so disruptive in our world is pride. How can we keep peace in our world? Gotta do something with pride. He says, keep the peace. We must keep conflict beyond our walls and not between them. Got to keep them beyond our walls. You think about all the countries that are at war, at odds. It's pride, the leaders, pride that they have for their country to say their country is the best. We think about the race to try to figure out a vaccine to help us during the coronavirus pandemic, right? These companies were working in different paces. What would it look like if they had to work together to figure something out? Where you got to have 2 doses over here, 3 doses over here, like whatever the case is, right? All of us, we struggle with that, and we need to search our hearts as to why we want to live in such a way where pride would dominate how we're living and what we're doing. And so Pastor Orr does a wonderful job here walking through this issue of pride. He says one of the things we have to do is we have to ask God for clarity. Ask God for clarity. We have to seek the Lord. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and everything else will be added unto you. For us to have unity and peace, we got to ask God for the right paths. We need to ask Him to order our steps. The saints of old would say we need Him to be a lamp to our feet and a light to our pathway. So we need to ask the Lord for guidance in how we are to live in order for us to keep the peace. Got to ask Him for guidance. He says, ask God for clarity and know your place. He has a special plan for each one of us. Look, ask God for guidance. Ask for help. Second thing, he says, accept your calling. Accept your calling. The Bible is so clear all throughout the scriptures where God gives everybody gifts. That we all have certain gifts that make us unique. We have special gifts that make us who we are. Some people have the gift of being able to talk and to speak in front of cameras for long periods of time. There are other people who have the gifts of getting everything set up so that you can speak on the camera and sound well. And so my producers, they have a different gift than I have, right? But when we come together, it all works out for the benefit of anybody who's watching. Like I don't, if you put me behind a soundboard, I have no clue what's happening. You won't hear anything. It's going to be muted. If you ask me to figure out the lighting in the room to make sure that the camera spot's right, I am going to suffer. You're going to see that screen. We're having technical difficulties, right? That's not my gift. God didn't create me to be able to throw a football 60 yards down the field. He didn't create me to be able to jump and dunk the ball or to shoot 3-pointers the same way that Steph Curry does, right? I wasn't designed that way. So if I try to go outside of myself and do something that He didn't create me to do, it's going to cause disruption. It's not going to be a beautiful sight. It's not going to be something that was intended for us or for me to live in light of the way He has called me, right? So we all have to accept our calling, whatever it is. Look, He has gifted us. He has wired us in different ways in a unique place so that once we put all of our gifts together, right, we can move the agenda of God forward in the world. So we have to ask God for clarity, but we also have to accept your calling. Accept your calling. Everyone, we don't have the same calling, and I think that's beautiful, right? There are many gifts within the kingdom of God, and what we can do to help keep the peace, ask God for clarity, right? But accept the calling that we have in our lives. Another thing he tells us to do is avoid causing confusion. Now, this might be the last point I have as we kind of round third and head for home. Avoid causing confusion. My goodness. I wish I could get some more time for this one, but we'll look at it again next week. But there are people who are just, they cause confusion. They get frustrated and they causing confusion all the time partly because they may not be in the role they need to be in. They may not be walking in the calling that they should be, and they're trying to do something else. But we have to avoid causing confusion. Look, if there's something happening at the house, whether I'm the cause of it or not, you know what? I just say, look, I'll accept responsibility for it. Let's figure out the peaceable means to move forward so we can do life well and not be at odds with each other. And I think because of pride, something we talked about 10 minutes ago, it keeps us from doing that, just accepting responsibility and moving forward. Like, it happens so much, it happens too much, but that is a cause for us not having peace and having the disruption that we unfortunately see happen in our churches and our communities. It's the fact that people like causing confusion. It's crazy. You see it online on social media. People love to stir up confusion, strife, and all those things. And we are not to be people who do those things in that way. So later on, as you read this book, you need to get the book, Ordinary Lessons. He says, the choice is ours. We can either swallow our pride or be swallowed alive. That's definitely a or point there. We don't want to be swallowed alive. Let's swallow our pride. Let's do the work of checking our heart to make sure that we're in alignment with what God has called us to do. We're asking for his guidance. We are accepting our gifts, our calling, but we are avoiding causing the conflicts. If we do those things and more that he has within this chapter, I think it will help us as a church to continue to grow and to flourish amidst all of the issues that are happening. I think it will help us to be better in our homes. It'll help us in our workplace. It will just help us as the people of God living in this world to do those things so that God's glory and fame can happen to the ends of the earth. We thank you so much for being with us again as we're walking through this book, September of Ordinary Lessons, pastor that was written by our senior pastor at Brown Missionary Baptist Church, Dr. Bartholomew Orr. You can get it from our online bookstore. You can get it in the bookstore if you're there. We would love for you to get it and just hear how God has given him the vision for this book. Thank you so much for being with us. Pray that y'all have a great week. We would love to see you on the scene for our weekend services. We'd love to see you on Wednesdays. This is Family Month, and our groups are back. Groups for all ages, all stages at our South Campus, 6:30 every Wednesday. Love to see you there. But let's do this thing. Let's make sure that we keep the peace, we avoid conflicts, and we follow the calling that God has put on our lives. Thank you so much. See you next week.